Okay, I'm going to get ready to start, everyone. Hello, my name's Corey Tutt, proud Gamilaroi man, CEO and founder of DeadlyScience, which you've all here to see what we've got up to in 2023. But first of all, I would like to offer an acknowledgement of country. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Biripi and Dungari people up here on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. And DeadlyScience pays respects to traditional custodian of land, to all elders, past and present, and to First Nations people everywhere. First Nations people from the Torres Strait all the way down to Little Weir and Palawa country have used science for 65,000 plus years. The first scientists. The lessons of the land, sea and sky are now passed on to the future scientists of today through their stories of song and dance. We call this caring for country, and if you care for country, the country will care for you. And a little bit of an insight into how I wrote this acknowledgement of country was many years ago. I was born on Yuin country, but I was heading down to Ngunnawal and Ngambri country in Canberra, which is now known as Canberra, and the country was burning. And I couldn't help but think to myself that if you care for country, the country cares for you. So this is where this acknowledgement of country comes from. And you can find that in my book, The First Scientists, as well. As I mentioned, my name's Corey Tutt. I'm proud Gamilaroi man, also a proud founder and CEO of this charity now known as DeadlyScience. And today we're going to go through our 2023 review of what we've been up to. And today's yarn is going to be a bit about our vision and what we hope to achieve in 2024 and all the amazing things that we've been up to this year and hopefully we're going to be up to next year, which is really exciting. I'm going to be introducing some really important members of the DeadlyScience team, Zoe O'Hara, who's our chair, and also Zach, who runs our programs. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that DeadlyScience gets up to. But without further ado, I'm going to start talking and going through it. So the format of today's session is really a real clear and easy run through. We're just going to make you all proud. Some of you are supporters. You've been funding us for a long time. Some of us are just volunteers. Some of our staff are joining us today. You all come from all walks of life, and we thank you for being part of the DeadlyScience family because it's really important. So we're going to go over to, if we just change the slide, please. So we're going to play a small video, and this is Garawa country up in Robinson River and Borroloola, and this is part of our Deadly Labs project. So our first project is about getting into community, working with our elders and our educators in community and finding a problem and finding a solution. So the whole point of Deadly Labs is to actually, instead of sending kits off to community, let's actually build the kits with the community, with the kids, using 65,000 years of science. And we went up to Borroloola, and one of the sort of questions that were posed to us and we'll pose to the elders that what is a problem you really want to solve? And the elders up in Robinson River said, "Oh, we don't really have access to soap because soap's really expensive in remote communities." And obviously, in the NT, there's a real big problem with rheumatic heart fever and rheumatic heart disease, which is caused by infections, which can be partially solved by the presence of soap and aseptic techniques. So part of what DeadlyScience did for our bush soap kit was to work with the elders, Arnie, Patsy Ann, and Suzanne, to look at their traditional knowledge and how they made soap. So we actually went up there and we developed a kit with the kids. And this is our Deadly Labs project. So the video that you're seeing now is all the kids making the bush soap. And this is a really important project for DeadlyScience. We've actually moved into juvenile justice centers now with this. So, we worked collaboratively with the community and a corporate partner to make this possible. And we actually tested the bush soap to commercial soap, and we found out that they were pretty much the same and on par. So the bush soap was just as good at killing those nasty sort of germs and bugs as the synthetic soap that was made for commercial use. So we've basically developed in February 2024. We'll be building the first, constructing the first Deadly Lab kits from this community in the consultation. And we'll be providing 55 soap kits to schools around Australia to replicate what the kids at Robinson River learnt from the elders and having these culturally appropriate soap kits, some of which is in language as well, which is really, really important. I'm going to hand over to Zoe, our wonderful, wonderful chair. And I would add another wonderful in there, but I think it's a bit overkill because Zoe has been part of Deadly Science since the start. And I just want to give Zoe an opportunity to have a yarn.
Yama, I'm coming to you today from Wadandi Budja, so down in the southwest of WA. I'm here today, and thank you, Corey. It's really exciting to be part of this. It's the first time that we've done this, so yeah, welcome everyone. And as Corey said, my name is Zoe O'Hara, and I have the privilege of being the chair of Deadly Science. At Deadly Science, we want the governance of our organisation to be the equal of best practice across the not-for-profit sector. In the last 12 months, we have put in a skills-based board to assist Corey and the team to deliver the strategy. And of this skills-based board, 5 of our 9 board members identify as either Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. And you could read more about our board members on the Deadly Science website. We've spent the last year on our vision, working hard and our mission, and developing a 3-year strategic plan for our organisation. And you will hear a few of those elements today. Corey will speak a bit and I will speak a bit, and then we'll hear some more from Zach. First up, I'd love to talk about our vision, creating STEM equity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learners. I'd like to quickly break the vision wording apart to provide some context to how the board arrived at this. First, the word STEM, and as most of you probably already know, this is an abbreviation for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But equity was a word that we debated between using equality and equity. And equality means you would provide the same level of resources and learning experiences to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in regional and remote schools as their counterparts, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to the city schools. But we didn't think this would be enough. We are targeting equity in our outcomes so that we will focus on additional resources and learning experiences for our students. Our programs are targeted at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learners in various learning facilities and environments. A little bit about me is I'm someone who has been involved with education in remote communities for around 15 years. I have seen firsthand the unique and enriched learning happening in each community. What strikes me as a major difficulty is the access to consistent resources and people on the ground, which demonstrates a major gap in boosting the educational experience for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learners. With shared knowledge dating back over 65,000 years and our learners living in today's world, it is more important than ever for our kids to retain and share this knowledge, but also be able to use that knowledge for their future and to be able to be whoever they want to be. Deadly Science support is not a one-size-fits-all, and we can support the individual needs of each organisation and community that we work with. And that's another way that makes our future as a not-for-profit all the more vital. I have had the privilege of seeing the personalised impact of Deadly Science on the ground in a remote school in the Kimberley from the earliest days of Deadly Science, when it was the one-man Corey operation, and the buzz and engagement and connection between Gidja knowledge and Western science made for the deepest learning experiences for these children. It was the experience that made the easiest decision for me to be one of the original board members and now the chair of Deadly Science, where I have been able to see the impact, growth, and the bigger picture. It always fuels my fire to be part and keep being part of this amazing journey. And I will hand you back to Corey to talk more about this impact.
Wow. Thank you, Zoe. Again, you know, everything you do for this organization is greatly appreciated as chair. And Thank you for being here from the beginning. I remember when I first came into contact with Zoe. She was working in a little known school called Pernalilly School in the Kimberley, and I was just sending boxes of books off from the University of Sydney. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and we developed this really great friendship. And when I was thinking about making this into a charity, I did not hesitate to invite Zoe to be on the board because we just got on so well. This is my favorite part. This is the impact of deadly science. To quote Paul Kelly from Little Things, Big Things Grow. And when I first started Deadly Science, I would have been happy just to send 100 books off. Would have been happy just to send a box of Lego off. And from the GoFundMe to the 2 jobs that I worked for a couple of years to building it up now. This is just the impact. We've been able to get across, so many different communities and schools and really build on the relationships that I built in the beginning. So, for example, our team is going up to Bardu in the Torres Strait, and this is a relationship that I've had for 4 or 5 years, and now my staff are getting to have that relationship and that friendship as well. So there's some really exciting things happening. Zach, actually, he's joining us. He's going to talk a bit about Deadly Learners and what that is. And, there's so much more that Deadly Science does than just sends resources. We all our resources are packed with love, but there's so much more behind it. So on the surface, it might look like we just send books and Lego, but we actually run a lot of really cool programs as well. So we've made a really significant impact on deadly learners everywhere. I call them deadly scientists. That's what that's us, right? And we've provided 8,000 boxes of resources, 700 telescopes. We've introduced Deadly STEM to 34,000 students across Australia. And I would just like to get you guys thinking about that. Those 34,000 students that have benefited from Deadly Science, most of them have parents who've also benefited from Deadly Science. Most of them had siblings. So think about the replication factor. That's 34,000 students, but actually we're impacting their families as well. Because if Deadly Science sends a book out to a school and that kid borrows that book and takes it home and learns how to read, more often than not, that kid's reading to a parent or an uncle or an auntie or a cousin or a brother or sister. So, this is having a replication factor. So we're not actually just impacting students, we're actually impacting community as well. And the same goes for any Lego and things like that. It's the resources change lives. And if you've been to a remote community, a lot of our schools are just resource poor due to their remoteness. If a Deadly Learner session occurs and you have a class of 30 students and they talk to a paleontologist or they talk to an Indigenous scientist, the conversations that flow on from that connect, those conversations that connect with others. So think of this data and replicate it. And the reason why we haven't put the replication factor in there is we don't know. But we know that the excitement of these resources and what Deadly Science does has a replication factor at home, which is really, really exciting. So I'm going to flick this. This is the impact, and I'm going to actually talk a little bit about the challenges that Deadly Science faces. So, across the remote community schools, often English is not the first language spoken at home. So some of our Deadly Scientists are actually some of the most bilingual kids in the world. For example, Meningrida, which is up in Arnhem Land, they speak 17 different languages and dialects in that community. And that is the most linguistically diverse place on Earth, it blows my mind. But this is some of the challenges that Deadly Science face, but we actually get excited by this stuff. So it's really important to actually not be discouraged by challenges, but actually face them because they make us better. And one of the other things as well is that sometimes in a lot of communities, there's community obligations as well. So when you actually build up momentum in the classroom, a lot of these remote communities have sorry business. So, we can actually lose momentum with our students because of these cultural days, but none to worry. Deadly Science just got to work harder to bring these kids back in. Field trips to universities and museums and things like that are just simply not possible. I do a lot of advocacy work outside of DeadlyScience and within DeadlyScience. And just to give you an example, we had some kids from Dual Communion who were running a market just to go to Canberra and experience Questacon, and they were raising the money to send themselves there, and they just couldn't get there because the community was too small. So I jumped in, I used my network and DeadlyScience's network, and we were able to raise the $25,000. We had to rely on a third party to actually allow these kids to go down to Ngunnawal and Ngambri country to experience what other kids experience on a weekly basis. This was just not this is not accessible to that remote community. So that cost about $25,000, and DeadlyScience was able to make that opportunity happen through our relationship with Questacon. Now, these are huge logistical problems for schools, especially in remote communities, when they don't really have the budget to allow their kids to go out off country and experience these things. So this is why the Deadly Learners Project's really important, and Deadly STEM in schools as well, because we can bring those experiences out to community. There's fewer role models in community for STEM to seek guidance from. I mean, if you're a ranger, you are the coolest person ever because you're going out in country and you're protecting animals and things like that. But if you were to say speak to a paleontologist, or I keep saying paleontologist, but if you were to speak to a geologist or a specialized STEM expert, it's actually really hard for those kids in remote communities to get that access. So again, that's why Deadly Learners is so important, and relying on the STEM expertise from our community and our ecosystem to give these kids opportunities to talk to different people. And one of the things that we've made it a real conversational piece, because again, our kids need to relate to people, not the work. They need to relate to people that are doing the work so they can see themselves in it, because you can't be what you can't see. The other problems that DeadlyScience faces is that we sourcing significant funding for our programs. We know they work. We know because of the impact of DeadlyScience, we're probably the most recognizable Indigenous STEM brand in Australia, because of our following and how big we've grown in such a short period of time. But sourcing that funding is really, really hard. And we're talking like the ongoing funding and that ongoing support to make sure that our programs, we can keep up the momentum. We've had huge impacts so far, as you can see, but actually sourcing that funding and making sure that, we can keep coming back. We don't want to be one of these organizations that, wastes our relationships with these communities, because we really want to be impactful for longer term. We want to go through generations of deadly scientists. There's some other challenge as well, like, sending resources out to communities. This has always been a challenge for us, even from the early days of DeadlyScience, is that certain communities can only access mail by airplane and aviation, and there's a weight limit on that. So if a box of resources weighs more than 10 kilos, for example, often it will come back and it won't make it to the community because there's weight limits on aircraft and things like that. Sometimes as well, often, someone from a community might give us the wrong address and the box comes back, and we will always contact the school and make sure that it gets there in the end. But it's also a significant postal cost because you have to break up the box and send more parcels. So therefore it costs more for DeadlyScience. Luckily, we've got a really wonderful partner in Australia Post who pays for a lot of our postage, but that's one of the challenges we face as well. The other ones as well is patchy internet. Not everyone has access to internet. And this was really, this became really apparent during the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of our schools, were sort of, especially in New South Wales and Queensland and Victoria, and not so much in the NT, but sort of, when we went into full lockdowns, kids in regional and remote areas often had to go home and do learning, but the assumption was that they had a computer at home and internet, but not everyone has that luxury. So, even in that example, DeadlyScience had to step up and send books to those communities. So, and in some of those remote communities, access to the internet is just really poor, really, really poor. So that's some of the problems that we have. And again, there's other issues as well, such as weather events. So Cabbage Tree Island, for example, up in Bundjalung country, we were meant to do some filming up there and some workshops, and obviously Lismore flooded and that school got completely destroyed, that community. And the good thing is DeadlyScience has been back, and we continue to be back, and we're part of the community and helping them rebuild. The same with Telegraph Point up in Biripi and Dungati country, you know, seeing responding to these catastrophic weather events has been something that Deadly Science can really hang its hat on. You know, even some of the travel to communities as well, like Kalkarinji and Robinson River, some of the tours we've done this year, it's really dependent on the wet and dry season. So even getting out there is difficult as well. So the same goes for the Torres Strait, and sometimes conditions don't allow for flying out there. So that can be a bit of a challenge, plus the costs of going out there as well. You know, we've just recently done some work in juvenile justice centres. So, you know, it's delivered its own challenges, like what projects can we conduct in juvenile justice centres, the rules around that, what resources we can bring. In juvenile justice, you're very limited in what you can offer those students. Personally, from my point of view, that's poor. I think we should be teaching STEM education for all children, no matter what mistakes or what their life circumstances is. I think if you we need to be able to give these kids access to this education. So it's really, really important. Tom Gordon, who's on this call, and Kim Berry, who they're both leading this really important project in juvenile justice centres up at Acmina, up on Bundjalung country. And it's, you know, this is the next rendition of Deadly Science. You know, when we said we're going to make STEM education available for all our mob, all our kids, we meant juvenile justice centres as well, which is really important. I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is, again, okay, so I lied to you. This is my favorite slide. So I've had two slides, right? The impact and the value of Deadly Science. Look, for the students, it's given Deadly Science has given Indigenous kids a identity. You know, the amount of letters and a lot of feedback that we get that kids are saying they want to be a deadly scientist. I think that to me is that's priceless, you know. And I often melt when I get these letters. So last week I got a letter from a 17-year-old kid from Port Macquarie who said one day he wants to work for Deadly Science. And I think, you know, that's the mark of success, you know, and that's the impact, right? Because that kid just idolizes Deadly Science, wants to come work for us. And I think that's a really cool thing. You know, we let students speak their minds. You know, one of the best things about Deadly Science, and one of the key pillars of success for Deadly Science, is that we don't speak at children. We allow them to like speak with us, and they're part of the learning journey, which is where a lot of educators go wrong. I think educators don't engage kids enough in the actual science and the STEM as well. You know, and our biggest thing is, you know, don't go and do science. You can do science. And that's the biggest tagline for us, is not to tell children to go and actually be a scientist, but actually that you can. Because a lot of these children feel like they can't, because the images that they see of the scientists of Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein, and they're generally white, middle-aged males. And we all know that's not what a scientist looks like. If we wanted to know what a scientist looks like, we'll probably need a mirror, because they come in all different shapes and sizes. The teachers, it's really important that teachers feel supported by Deadly Science. I can't tell you how many times I've had a call from a teacher close to midnight. They're in tears, and I've had to talk them out of resigning, or I've had to talk them, you know, I've had to talk to them when they've been in a pretty dark place. One school in particular, a teacher moved down there, and he had rang me, bawling his eyes out, very burnt out. And together with Deadly Science and our resources, we've been able to change that school. And they've actually been able to record a higher level of attendance as well down there. So that's really important to me as well, is making teachers feel supported, not just for our resources, but actually through our actions. And we provide teacher guides. We release a teacher's like a teacher's guide every year for Australia Post, and it's one of the most downloaded resources. We also write a lot of books. We try and, you know, again, we just try to be good citizens, because in our educational ecosystem, our teachers see our deadly scientists the most. So if we can support our teachers, then we're actually supporting our kids as well. To our volunteers, and as you can see by this beautiful little time lapse, this is the Rotary Club of Sunrise, Port Macquarie. And, you know, I love these days. These are our Lego and resource packing days. When we get everyone together and we have a cup of tea and we have a cake, but the conversations that occur are some of the best conversations, because sometimes these are people that haven't spoken to each other all year, or maybe they've just joined a Rotary club, and they've just moved to the area, and they sign up for our Deadly Science Volunteer Day, and it starts conversations like, we had one woman go, "Oh, I lived in Corindai," and then another man's like, "Well, I'm from Corindai, my parents are from Corindai," and then they start this whole friendship and this connection. And it really helps with loneliness as well. So when we have our days, we don't have as many as what we could, because they are really special, but they're really hard. They're pretty hard to organize when you're a small team. But even walking around Port Macquarie and going to the shops, I have Rotary Club members and just general volunteers, not just Rotary Club members, but people that come and pack Lego. When's the next Lego packing day? And I think they don't even ask me how I am. They just ask when the next Lego packing day is, because it really does bring people together. So early this month, or last month, sorry, we had a Lego packing day, and we had 17 different volunteers, and the conversations, the cups of tea, the packing the box, it gives people a sense of purpose, which is really important. So to our partners as well, we make our partners aware of the challenges that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students face, and communities. We're really able to show our partners, the way forward for meaningful engagement and how to actually make a difference. If a guy from Dapto can make a difference, but a charity working 2 jobs and a GoFundMe page, a multi-billion-dollar organization can as well, and they can do it on a local level. To our partners, thank you so much for helping us, and our donors. We wouldn't be here where we were if it wasn't for the people that originally donated to the GoFundMe page, the people that regularly contributed to us. There's a word called multi-forcification, and that's multiple people working the same direction, and we can achieve a lot when we do that. We're a local charity, we're Deadly, and we support local communities as well. And we also support other charities, and we benefit all Australians. I'm going to pass it on to Zach. I'm going to pass it on. Sorry, I'm going to hand it over to Zach. Zach is amazing. So, Zach.
Hey, mate. Now, I think we're going to watch a short video. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. This is Chris Arrington from Robinson River, principal. Sorry, there is very low sound because this was filmed in a remote community. So they got the captions on there as well. Sorry.
For anyone wondering what Chris actually sounds like, he sounds exactly like Richard Hammond from Top Gear. So it's such a shame that we couldn't hear him, because I've always loved his voice. He's an absolute legend. And all of us here at Deadly Science have had the chance to work with Chris, mainly in that Deadly Labs program. But yeah, he's an absolute giant of a man doing great work. So look, thanks, Corey. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And I've just seen that there's 30 people on the call, so I'm a bit nervous, but it's awesome to see some familiar names popping up in the chat as well. My name is Zach, and I project manage a few programs here at Deadly Science, mainly Deadly Learners. which I'll unpack in a moment. But it's also been a real privilege to work on other projects around the way. And I'm zooming in today from Bunurong country down in Melbourne southeast on the Mornington Peninsula. On this slide, you'll kind of see the 6 key programs that we implement to pursue our vision, and starting from the left to right, you'll see Deadly Learners there. And as a lot of you guys would know, this is our 1 hour STEM related virtual workshops, and they're for primary and high school students, but it's just really about introducing them to the concepts of STEM. They get to meet a professional, and there's organic, awesome conversations that unfold. But this is one of our higher impact programs that I'll get to briefly. So I'll come back to this one. The second one there, you'll see a picture of Tom Gordon, the great man himself, doing some stuff there with Deadly STEM in schools. And this actually moves away from the virtual space, but it puts us into the classroom and into schools, providing those important face-to-face STEM learning opportunities. So again, for Indigenous students, but we often get non-Indigenous students as well, but it's in those regional and remote areas. This year, Deadly STEM in schools took us up to as Corey said, took us up to the New South Wales, Northern Rivers region, and then central Queensland down to Elora and sort of across towards Brisbane. The third one there, Deadly Resources, as you sort of saw in the packing, this is that distribution of resources that are designed to aid teachers and get the students excited by STEM. So we make sure they're culturally appropriate, but these are things like books and telescopes and laptops and drones and weather stations. I think there's even been trail cameras in there, which is amazing. And of course, there's tons and tons of Lego. So as Corey mentioned 3 weeks ago, we had the Rotary Club of Port Macquarie join us for that packing, and there were hundreds of boxes that went out all over Australia. DeadlyScience Pathways, the fourth one there, is a program that's been designed to support the inclusion of Indigenous secondary school students in STEM-related education, but also creating pathways for them in the future. So a major milestone this year was a 3-day immersion program at WeHi. So for those of you who don't know WeHi, that's the Walter and Eliza Hall for Medical Research. Sorry, I should get that right. Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research. And this event brought together Indigenous students from 3 states to participate in presentations and information sessions, all relating to STEM careers. And from what I was told, there was also some pretty inspiring guest speakers there as well. The 5th one is Deadly Labs, and that was the one that Chris Errington, aka Richard Hammond, was just speaking about. But that's that joint development of STEM kits between DeadlyScience and a community or school in a remote area. So the community will identify a problem, and we help design a kit. So we're just about to distribute the one that Chris was talking about, which was that with Robinson River, and that whole point of that kit was to guide students through the process of making bush soap, and then also unpack the importance of hygiene. The last one there, which we've just completed, which was really amazing to be a part of, was the DeadlyScience Awards, and this is an annual campaign that we roll out to reward an educator and students from each state. So firstly, there's the inspirational educator for their ability to inspire students to pursue STEM, and then there's the Outstanding Student Award, which honours 2 deserving students from each state that have demonstrated some pretty awesome achievements in STEM. So that's the 6 key programs. I might get you, let's go to the next slide, guys, if you're still with me. And I'll just aware of time, so I'll try and rip through this fairly quickly, but just going to pull up my slides. Beautiful. So this year, a lot of us will know, and if you've seen DeadlyScience in action, you would have heard of DeadlyScience as Deadly Learners, and it's been a real privilege to work on this one this year. I feel like I've got the best job out of everyone on the team. I get to run these 1-hour virtual sessions, and we just help young people in classes learn key ideas and meet these awesome professionals and ask and share STEM knowledge. And a key component of this, as you guys may or may not know, is is the inclusion of a STEM professional. So we call them STEM legends, and we invite them in as guest speakers on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever we need to do to unpack STEM. And so they'll often do demonstrations or tell stories or even conduct experiments, but most will bring photos of them engaging with their STEM profession. Anything that encourages basically that interaction between the student themselves and the topic that we're unpacking. So I think that's that's been an awesome thing to be a part of this year. And if you look at the numbers, you'll see that it's a pretty solid number, 1,653. So that's the amount of sessions we've successfully delivered this year, which is, again, just such an awesome number. And it's been a real privilege to help get to that point. We've run 60 workshops and we've worked across 38 schools. So again, that's 1,653 students, 60 workshops and 38 schools. And that's covering just a massive STEM themes, as you can imagine. So that's been phenomenal, and it's only growing. We've worked in every state and territory in Australia, which is an awesome thing to be able to present today. And again, just making sure we focus on those remote and regional areas, with WA and the Northern Territory consistently making up a large number of our workshops. I think the big thing there, and you'll see on that last point, we're going to start talking about the superstars of STEM. And it's important to acknowledge the STEM legends. So these are the volunteers that have given up their time to actually come and speak to the students. So the expression of interest of volunteers has just been overwhelming. And I've mentioned that a few times to the team. We've had 50 alternating STEM legends covering topics from biomedical engineering to geoscience, to astronomy and marine science. So it's a really take your pick of any topic, and we've got people to come in and do these. So they've been there to spark interest and run those great sessions. But I think the thing that sets it aside is just that it is a bit of a informal and an interactive conversation. That's what we aim for in our Deadly Learner sessions. The point there I wanted to make was that main feeder being the superstars of STEM, and this is kind of part of something really cool. And the Superstars of STEM are another program that we managed to partner up with, but they're delivered by Science and Technology Australia. And that's 60 women and non-binary STEM experts upskilling themselves in advanced communication and opportunities. And one of those opportunities just happens to be that they need to put their time in talking to students in class. So we've just tapped into this sort of critical mass of incredible science communicators that are already out there inspiring the next generation of scientists. There's been 2 sessions that I'll finish up on before I show you the last slide of mine, which is some testimonials. But I wanted to call that 2, and I think what makes these Deadly Learner sessions so powerful is that they sort of both represent the 2 parts of Deadly Science, which is the history and that older science meeting kind of the future and what we're presently doing. And one was with Loxton Lutheran, which was in South Australia. And they actually joined proud First Nations man, Will Austin. Now, Will's, you'd call him a social change maker / facilitator / wellbeing advocate, but Will basically shares his First Nations knowledge and wisdom with people around Australia. And he joined us for an hour to run a workshop on artifacts and including, how to make things like didgeridoos and yidakis and digging sticks and clapping sticks. So that was pretty awesome. And then the second one was with Malak Primary School in the Northern Territory, who frequently run workshops with us. But they were lucky enough to join Lauren Ayton, who's a clinical researcher with more than 10 years experience in vision restoration. So she ran a fantastic session around the importance of looking after your eyes and the importance of vision and how that works, which was pretty fantastic. So that's a snapshot, and you can kind of see some of the photos there. I'll go to the next slide real quick, guys, and we'll grab these testimonials. So in the next slide, you'll see that there's 3, and I'll let you guys just read that real quick. I won't read them out loud, but there's a teacher there from one of our Deadly Learner schools. The middle one is from a STEM legend that frequently gives up her time, Vanessa Perrotta, and she's a marine biologist. And then that last testimonial there is from the Deadly Pathways student, David. All right, and I might just once you're done there, I might just pass you back to Corey, mate. I know you're keen to get talking again.
No, I certainly am. Thank you, Zach. Unbelievable work that you do with us, and we're very grateful to have you part of the team. Look, everyone, what a celebration. 2023 was amazing. We expanded our programs. We doubled our schools from 400 to 800. We were able to secure some more funding to increase our staff from 4 to 12. We have been able to shift our resources from various team members' garages. My garage, which has made my wife very, very happy. Tom Gordon's garage. We kept resources in individuals' garages for ages, and that's how we used to send resources out. But we're actually able to open up a Port Macquarie office and warehouse. We've had successful event engagement. We took some kids down to the Formula One where they got to meet Lewis Hamilton and different F1 race drivers, Formula One race drivers and engineers as well. We've been able to have so many successful events this year, and it's really because of you, the supporters of Deadly Science. You've allowed this to become possible for us. We were actually a finalist in the Telstra Best of Business Awards for Indigenous Excellence for our business acumen and strategy and all those wonderful things. And look, this is a prime example of, when we work together, we can achieve really incredible things. So I'm just going to come across the next slide and the propulsion of the rocket, which is pretty exciting. So 2024 we've just got a lot happening. It's so exciting. Our partners, Australian Geographic, we're releasing 2 additional books to our 8-part series, which has been so welcomed by community. I see kids running around with those books all the time. I remember during COVID, when we released the Australian Geographic books, I signed them for kids doing it tough during COVID. And I'm still getting messages of mums and dads out there. Thank you so much for giving us a copy of Animal Adaptations or Wild Weather and putting that note in there. My kid hasn't dropped it, or I read it to my kid before they go to sleep. And I just think it's just going to be a big bumpy year for AusGeo and Deadly Science. They've been written by Jared Kane and Paul Briggs, who are Indigenous teachers as well, which is really cool. So I'm passing on the baton to other Indigenous people to write those books, which is very, very exciting. We've been offered a tram by Yarra Tram, so we're successful in gaining a tram to have a Deadly Science wrap on it. So if you're down in Naarm, between Melbourne, between May and September, you will see a Deadly Science tram, and we implore you to go and visit Melbourne, jump on the tram, take a photo of yourself on the Deadly Science tram and share it on social media so you can get the word of Deadly Science out there. In terms of the organization, we plan to expand our 6 key programs. This will enable us to deliver more resources, more fun learning experiences for our kids in schools. We will focus on building stronger relationships with schools. We plan to go back year after year and embed our learning experiences and increase our impact. But, this is the thing. We want to actually improve as an organization. We want to be like AI and continue to keep learning and growing and keep mastering what we're good at. And that will help impact the future generations of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids and remote kids as well, like non-Indigenous kids that live in these communities. We plan to lock down more longer-term funding arrangement, and this will give increased certainty to our staff and also planning as well. One thing that Deadly Science is we're really priding ourselves on is we're actually giving opportunities to our staff to grow and develop. And because we're in this cool sort of just going beyond the startup phase and we're in a growth phase, there's so much opportunity for people that come into Deadly Science and learn more and they have their careers benefit as well. We want to increase our government advocacy. So we want to help the government make more informed choices, better informed choices when it comes to funding and supporting our kids in remote and regional Australia. So we plan to increase that. We're also planning to improve our tracking of the impact of what we do and how we're changing, the ecosystem for our students and their lives as well. We want to track how we're changing how our students feel about STEM and their careers as well. So look, get excited, because Deadly Science is going somewhere in 2024. And we need your support. We need as much support as possible to keep growing this thing so we can impact more and more lives. Just flick through to the next slide, please. Here's a small video, and what this is just to bring a smile to your face and really showcase the impact of Deadly Science. Thank you.
I am a scientist and I love being a scientist. I'm a scientist. I love science.
How deadly is that? That was pretty. That always brings a smile to my face, that video. And we're gonna switch over to some questions now. So feel free to put some questions in the chat. But we've already got some pre-questions, and I'm just gonna go through them now. What is your favorite activity this year and why? Sent by Susie and Jade. Oh, look, there's a couple of answers from the team here. Scott, Chief COO, says the chance to get to Kalkarindji School, 8 hours south of Darwin, and spend 3 days there working with students as part of our National Science Week activities. Tom says the opportunity to work with students at Injuna, Acmina Youth Justice Centre, to create science experiments that we can share with other students across juvenile justice centres across Australia. The impact in the making. We've had one young person who has not participated in school while at Acmina, never come to classes, has turned up to every part of the Deadly Science workshop, the Deadly Lab workshop. So he's gone to school because of Deadly Labs. Like, you can't even write that stuff. That is the best outcome. Mel, our superstar, Mel's a strategy manager, and the Deadly Junior Scientist Awards is always a favorite of hers. She loves reading and hearing about all the amazing STEM experiences and interests of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander learners across Australia. The importance to celebrate passion and purpose today so they can continue to be inspired and engaged and become the best deadly scientists of tomorrow. And for me, my personal one, I've loved all of it. From the days of starting this back in 2018, I love coming to work and seeing an amazing team of people who are just benefiting from Deadly Science and what we've built together. I love seeing the growth of our staff members, Kim and Holly, and even DJ, who's just joined us, and Zach, and Tom. I have so much pride in our people, and then I see the smiles on the kids' faces, and that's always why I did what I did with Deadly Science, and getting to see our staff experience the same joy that I've experienced is just a blessing. Okay, I move. Sorry, DJ's told me to move forward to number 6, so I'm going for number 6. What aspirations do you have for First Nations communities moving forward? Sent by Lauren. Thank you, Lauren, for your amazing question. Look, I want to build the base of the pyramid. I want us to build. We've got to start from scratch. We can't continue to do the same things that we've always done. I want more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in primary school who think STEM is fun, come to school when they know STEM activities are going to be taught. More Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to understand their career options in STEM and select STEM subjects, even just one, as a choice. I want governments to recognise the true history of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and the importance of our contribution to STEM, and may ensure that younger generations get taught that the 65,000 years of STEM, it's really, really important, because it's just as much my history as an Aboriginal man as your history, because when you're born on this continent, you come from the country whose first people invented bread, and that should be celebrated. I want to see our Indigenous STEM experts held in the same esteem by students and adults as non-Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities as our sporting stars and artists. We've got a couple of amazing, incredible scientists like Crystal Dina Napoli, who's an amazing astronomer, Kirsten Banks, the list goes on and on and on. And I want them to be held in the same regard as an AFL footy player. That's really important. I'm going to go to the chat. Is there any questions live? Okay, have we got, hang on, have we got any questions here? Okay, if not, I'm going to go to one of the pre-questions. That's cool. I'll go to one of the pre-questions. I'm well aware that we've gone over time. So what we might do is we might wrap it up. And if you've got any other questions, here's how you can get involved in Deadly Science. Start a kidness party. Fill your Christmas stocking full of our socks, books, you name it. It helps create passive income for Deadly Science to be there for our communities. And they look deadly. And they're also amazing. Donate to our cause. Please donate to Deadly Science. If you're not in a position to donate, don't put yourself in financial stress, but tell someone who can. Partner with us, help us build effective partnerships to build what this thing is and help us get to more children out there. It's really exciting. If you're a teacher, book a Deadly Learner session, go nuts. If you're a scientist, volunteer, please. It's really important. If you're a school out there, sign up to our School of the Month. You deserve it. Like, you deserve to be recognized. Your teachers out there, if you're doing a deadly job with our kids, you deserve to be acknowledged. And if you know someone that's working in the community that's doing a good job, Deadly Science wants to be there to give them a thumbs up and basically say thank you very, very much and help encourage our teachers. Join our efforts. You can join us and you can find us all on the website, deadlyscience.org.au. If you're not following us on social media, shame, but you can. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. Get in touch. We want to hear from you as well. And to the rest of the team and the rest of the Deadly Science team, thank you very, very much for this year, this amazing year, 2023. Who would have thought that we would welcome more staff and achieve double the amount of what we did last year. We're already doing a lot, but thank you all for your efforts. To our volunteers, our partners, our donors. It means a hell of a lot to us, the Deadly Science family, that you're walking this road with us. Thank you.